Hey everybody, Shay here, welcome back, and this time I've gotten ahead of all of you because I have already read Volume 11 of Attack on Titan. I ended up reading it while multitasking, listening to news in the background, just catching up on some media, and I was like, I'm just going to start flipping through because I need to know what happens here with this fight. Now, the first part of this is it's basically just the the fight with Eren and the Armored Titan, which at this point we know is Reiner, and of course this awesome scene right here. This is the most epic piece I can talk about. I'm just gonna jump right into it because I'm just testing new ways of doing this, and so welcome on the journey. In any case, I love this. This is creepy as hell. The fact that the rib cage itself becomes like these like spider legs crawling on the edge of the wall and knocking soldiers off the wall left and right, because I mean it's just massive, just pummeling its way through. Epic stakes, of course, big epic stakes with these fights on both fronts here. He does do a chomp chomp of Ymir and another soldier, which we eventually come to know that, that soldier doesn't make it. And later on, we discover that Bertolt effectively takes the jumping gear off of that soldier, which, since I've read this, I can just talk about it all at once, so that this is more like a review and a highlight moment of the moments that stood out to me. I really should put little stickies on this as I go, but I'm just going to kind of wing it because I do want to re-experience some of the epic moments and the swings and whatnot, and talk about the art a little bit. Like, it's gotten a little bit looser. It's kind of a mix of the early series and what happened near the, I forget what volumes they were, like 6, 7, 8. I guess the Lady Titan, the female Titan, the female Titan arc, where the arc got crisper, the lines got crisper, and so the action combat also got a little stiffer. It looked a little cleaner, but it got stiffer. Whereas then you look at something like this, and it's dynamic as hell, and everything's going all over the place. But I look at that colossal Titan, which at this point we know is Bertolt. But you look at him, and he doesn't look as like not. It doesn't look like my memory of the Colossal Titan from Volume 1, which was epic as hell. This one just kind of looks like wonky formed and stuff like that. It's not as epic against the wall, but he does do the steam attack power, which is, I guess, one of its capabilities. It's kind of like a slow steam approach just to keep the soldiers off of it. And anyways, they're going to shift gears, and they're going to now focus on Eren taking out the Armored Titan, and this just ripped through this kind of combat. I do like the way that they went and they did the backstory of the training in the core between Reiner and Annie and Eren, and that was all going to come into play because of the way that Eren would have to take on the Armored Titan, because he couldn't punch his way to defeating the Armored Titan. It was just way too strong. The entire skin is armor plated at this point. Can't bite through it. They can't cut through it. They can't do any of that. And when he takes a punch, he takes a punch real good. And that chapter pretty much ends with that fight kicking off. And we do this flashback, and this is a fun way of bringing Annie back into the mix, into the narrative. And the big highlight here is Annie training, showing Eren that the weight and the mass and the strength of the opponent isn't something to be intimidated by in combat, because you can use the momentum of your opponent against them, especially if they're heavier than you, etc. So you do like takedown actions, and it's all about just ground combat. And now it does hang on this arc right here where Mikasa wants to also learn these attack approaches. And there was one line that stood out to me immediately, and it was just kind of like thrown away. And what I've noticed here is, like, either throwaway lines happen and they come back and they become meaningful, or very meaningful things just casually drop on the scene, as we got with Reiner and Bertolt. Anyways, it was this part right here. I'm just going to zoom in. Is what stood out to me, the top part here, where Annie basically tells Mikasa, these techniques are for humans. Why would you say that to Mikasa? I don't understand. I mean, now I start to second guess the intention of the writing and the words being used, because like this has happened multiple times now. I don't think you'd have any use for them. I don't think you'd have any use for them. What the hell? And then it ends off with, I am interested to see if they work on beasts. Why would you say that there? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Because the whole part of this arc right now is the Beast Titan, and I'm like, there's no way. And I'm trying to think, like, was there ever a scene where Mikasa was in the same scene as the Beast Titan? You know what I mean? A bit of a pokeroo, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. Is that a Canadian thing? I think pokeroo might be a Canadian thing. Anyways, it doesn't matter. You can look it up. Okay, fine. It's like, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. And so this fight happens. He is absolutely taking a beating with the Armored Titan, but he's having these flashbacks while fighting the Armored Titan, and he realizes the only way to take out the Armored Titan, of course, is to use any strategies against it. So use its momentum against it, use its weight against it, and of course we have the anti-takedown. We got a nice repetition scene there, and they've done this before in the storytelling, which was great. So I like when they bring this kind of stuff back. And while in the takedown, of course, Aaron gets a move on him, a grapple hold here on the arm, and effectively pulls off an arm rip-off technique. So the arm is effectively off of Reiner Titan, Armor Titan, and it's like, oh, like crap, that's just crazy. This is crazy. Okay, so they still got to go because, I mean, it's still going to come at him. Mikasa's in there, ready to take some swings, and of course they bring up the fact that the weak spots would be on the elbows. The joints. So for the movements, for humans to move with armor on, the weak spots were on behind the knees, right? The elbows, the armpits, and then the groin and stuff like that. I think so that their limbs can move, right? There's going to be weak spots. So Mikasa goes for those, takes out the legs, and gives Aaron a bit of another opportunity here for another Armor Titan takedown. Grabs him by the neck, and this is like Ultimate Fighter crap at this point, because that neck lock is in there. Like, that's a dislocate. Like, you could kill a dude, dislocate the head, and that's exactly what Aaron is going to be attempting to do. It's just rip off his head straight up, Reiner's head straight up, and when that starts to become more and more risky, Bertolt Titan up there, Colossal Titan, freaks out and does a head bomb drop into the I don't know, I just caught heads up move, because of course that the head is not so much going up but coming down, so it's coming down like a bomb. Boom. Lost ending, right? It's just kind of like chapter close, and everything is we got a bit of a flashback of other people coming on the scene. Everything's all of them are taken out, and of course they give a flashback as to what happened is that when the Colossal Titan dropped onto them, it became a vanishing bomb. It's like a ninja technique. I don't know. Look, it made them all disappear. So they all give a sync of the events that have happened, joining forces together. They all get an update as to what went down on the wall, and that there was other sleeper Titans inside the squad. And so now, yeah, that's the update right there of they just went poof. Mikasa's like, oh crap, they got Aaron now, they got Ymir. It gives us a flashback as to how. So the Armor Titan just chomps the neck out of Aaron Titan, and Vamooses. They give an update as to this Reiner moment here. Bertolt moment, taking Ymir with the equipment from the other soldier that it gobbled up. I don't know how he pulled that off inside the Titan. That's also kind of curious. Maybe it was when it was steaming. It basically had access to both of the bodies, took the armor off the one, I guess killed him, I guess, because he's gone. We don't get a reference back to him. And then he slingshots away, hooks onto the Armor Titan's back, to Reiner, and off they go. And Hanji speculates that they're off to the Titan Forest that we remember in volume 6 or 7. So it sounds like it's probably the same forest, the one inside Wal Maria. So they talk about basically, like, we're gonna be getting it back, even if no one else is coming. We got Hands showing up and saying that, like, they won't be doing it alone, right? Mikasa and Armin, and they'll go at it together. But this is the last quarter, and so we're cresting from an Act 2 to an Act 3, and of course, this is where the turning of the tides. It's like it's like they're gonna have to do it alone, but no, they won't, because that's when the entire force ends up showing up, and it looks like a bunch of them are going to opt in to going after the Titans that ran off with Aaron and Ymir. So looks like they're all preparing. They're just getting the horses off over the wall, and then they're going to go look for these folks right here. Boom, we got the chapter end, and we find out Aaron is without arms, because during the chomp maneuver, Reiner ends up chomping off Aaron's arms by accident. Now, he could have completely wrecked Aaron during that move, but in any case, so both of them are healing their lost limbs at this point, so they can't really do anything, and they're in the Titan Woods, and so they're surrounded. They can't really bounce, and so they have this opportunity to chat it out, and or not really chat it out, because none of them really want to show their moves. But we do get a little bit of a look at least what's happening with Reiner, that he is fighting with a dual identity, and that is a struggle for him that Bertolt is very familiar with. Looks like he's got a better control of, I guess, his identity and situation, but it goes into the identity issue around at least the words soldier and warrior, and those seem to be trigger words for Reiner, because he's having a hard time distinguishing who his true self actually is. His true self seems to be the warrior mode, so the Titan, or whatever that is, him who can turn into a Titan. But in any case, the warrior is whatever is going on that part of the plot, which is kind of getting seeded right now for us to delve into and discover some more about. And then the soldier is almost like this rapper persona that he ended up applying to hymself after the initial invasion in order to, I don't know, come to grips with himself, not lose himself. I'm not sure. We're gonna discover some more about Reiner. I think he's definitely struggling with personality here. He sort of like lapses into like talking to himself about things tied to the soldier identity, but then he catches himself, or someone has to catch himself because he's making no sense, and then he has to kind of reset himself, but he gets frustrated along the way. That just dawned on me right now as I was talking it through, because I just read this, where we had the Ymir scene. Remember the initial Ymir scene in the short Levy chapter, or I mean the one that the prelude chapter before the Levy chapter or something like that. I forget what volume that was, volume 5 maybe 6. And we have the moment where Ymir says the name and then it ends up losing itself. I feel like that's happening, but in reverse. Like it's happening to Reiner when he's in like human form, but he starts to get like angry about it when he gets called out by Ymir. Ironically enough, Ymir's calling him out and he's getting frustrated by it. So it looks like he really can't control those lapses that happen to him, and looks like there's some cool identity stuff to explore there in any case. But we do get this also kind of personal-ish moment where Eren, when it goes back to that flash back in this where they were on the beds talking about their past and stuff like that, and Eren's basically saying like, I told you that when the Colossus Titan attacked, the rock that landed on my house and ended up killing my mom and stuff like that. And so like, basically like you knew the entire time. Like I told you this like 3 years ago, whenever it was, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, but they were in the forest 3 years ago talking about it while training together. And that basically Bertholdt had always known, or I mean knew, but that he felt sorry for him. But it doesn't really go into much more detail, so I don't know. It was half ambiguous is how I would call it. Like, and then Eren in his own way kind of losing his cool and saying like, he's basically vowing to make sure that both of them die the most painful death ever. And I like how Ymir just cuts in here and says, "That's not it, Eren." What? Wait, what are you talking about, Ymir? And it's like, I'm begging you, I can't put my faith in you if you keep talking like some stupid kid. Like what? I'm saying that there's no way I'm going along with someone worried about petty things like that. So I don't know what Ymir's on about, but anyways, that's a very curious way to cut that off. And then they bring up the ape, the Beast Titan, whatnot. So it does look like they're not really clear on what the Beast Titan is. Then it puts them all on a similar plane, I suppose, because they don't seem to be working for it. At least it doesn't seem that way. But the Beast Titan did have a method of like calling upon the other Titans, and making them do things against their will, sort of. Like it felt like they were controlled by it, and it's not like that call that the Beast Titan did. Why did I show the pages there? I'm not sure. I was going to talk about the protection thing while my brain was still talking about something else. Like it wasn't like the Beast Titan was able to provoke or invoke the transformation of the ones that were sleeper agents, like I wasn't able to do that. So it looks like there's two separate things going on here. Or, I mean, it's just like the power of the Beast Titan is for it to control weaker Titans, aberrant Titans, if you wait, abnormal Titans, maybe there's something like that going on. And then of course we have Historia and the whole protection of Crystal, and that's something that they can align on, because that's kind of how Reiner turns the tide of this, like, I know you're going to try to flee with Eren and Ymir, so like just chill, like it's like they can't really take any move while it's night, because they'll just get, they have to get through the entire Titan force and stuff like that. But I think it's just a way to return her back to, I don't know, a baseline, and then maybe like they have a chance to talk something out, that they're going to go back to their city. But what does that mean? Like we still have a couple mysteries there to resolve, and it doesn't look like Ymir is also aware of that, so like of what that city is. And so it feels like, is there different sects of Titans going on? I'm not sure, but those are the questions that are now hanging over me. And it's just funny, like I flipped into like the conclusion pages where there's kind of like shenanigans that Isayama adds to the books. I don't know, like they sound like they're kind of relevant, but they're not. It's kind of modern day-ish kind of thing, schoolgirl, like, I don't know, it says oh, it was all a dream, Eren says as he's waking up. But that's literally what sort of happened at the beginning of Volume 1. Don't think I didn't forget that. I didn't forget that. And it says that literally the title of that first chapter is very meaningful, at least to me. I have not forgotten what that title means and what it might imply. I just don't really speak about it freely because I don't want people to spoil, right? So I just... Those of you who are more spoiler cautious as you watch these, you can kind of read between the lines and maybe assume what I'm trying to get you to assume without me saying it aloud. For those, I mean, that's even more dangerous. I don't know why I kept talking about that. In any case, I'll leave that go. I'll leave it alone. And then it says the Titan Squad, leave it to us. And it's like all of them biting themselves. I'm like, is that a preview? Or are you just, I think he just trolls. He just trolls. It says really not it says really not a real preview in the corner there. It's a bastard. Because I mean, it's almost like a spoiler protector, because maybe these are like hiding things, I don't know, that are actually true. But if Isayama does that, then you sort of never really know what you're hearing out there is true or not. So you get spoiler protected along the way. Anyway, so there you go. That was 20 minutes. So I'm doing a couple tests along the way of how to record these, because I'm trying to get a ramp up into the series just to get some momentum going, and exploring along the way, because I mean, that's become the fun kind of game at this point. So there you go. It's a little bit of a, definitely a spoiler. It's not a review. I suppose sort of is, I suppose. I guess I could have reviewed the last. Did I end up saying that, you know, I would have given this a 4, the volume 10? I probably should have put that in the 10 episode, right? In any case, I probably would have given it a 4 out of 5. I think the pacing was really nice. I like the way that it closed, bracketed the entire volume with those 4 chapters. I thought that was really cool. And the way that it dropped the exposition the way it did, and the reveals were fun. Everything was exciting about that chapter. I definitely feel like it would be a 4. Would it be a 5? Maybe not. And maybe not quite a 5. I think a 4 is pretty sound. And I think even for this one, I think the fight scenes were fun. I think the art was a little bit hard to follow sometimes. And it's consistent, though, so I can't complain. I actually like the more dynamic, like, again, the line work that looks messy and grungy. I actually prefer it to the one that's like very clean and looks nice. It's like, I kind of like it not looking that nice. I just feel like there's this frenzy and freneticism with this. Look at this. Like, it's just, I actually think it's good. So I would say this is still a 4, though. I think the pacing is also pretty fine. Like, we got the first quarter, which is the act 1, is kind of like the setup of like the fights are happening, right? The middle part here, like the 50% in the middle, major fight, you know, a resolution comes out of it going into act 3, and then we have a little bit of a pick me up on act 3. Well, it's actually more of it's a denouement of this arc here, but it's loaded with information on what could possibly come next, and I feel like it's a lot of nice seeds being laid out. And the fact that it's squad members are getting revealed, I think that's a really fun way of pushing the story. Almost like the irony of like it being so, the boring reveal in volume 10 actually made it land harder. Does that make sense? Like, the fact that it wasn't a reveal that just kind of, that could have been cool too, but it's almost like it was jarring because it wasn't a massive, like, a reveal. Just the way that it was just unique. It was different. It sort of just threw me off in an unexpected way, to be honest. And I ended up enjoying it because it leads into this, and you get an epic fight out of it. And it's like, because you're kind of confused while you're, especially because I read these back to back, you know, but you're sort of confused through the fight still, you know, and then it makes it kind of exciting because, like, what the hell is going on here? So I would still say this is a 4. I would still say, yeah, this is a 4 out of 5 as well. I think they're starting to consistently show that there's like a pace to it now that the mangaka has landed on. Like, there's almost like there's a destination in mind, you know, because there's a lot of like seeding along the way, and it has to be intentional, because I mean, this went a whole arc and I almost still didn't get answers. You know what I mean? We got just enough answers to move it along, and just enough mysteries unveiled. This does make it a second half of an act 2, right? Of a 4-part series of the 4 volumes, if that's what's going to happen here. Does that feel like this handed off to an act 3? Sort of, because like, now you have, like, they're in that danger mode, right? Both Ymir and Eren. They're in this situation where, like, they got to get out. They're going to get saved. So now you have the potential volume 4 of, like, all shit hits the fan. What I call the Minion Madness events, right? It's like everything comes onto the table. Then you got some chaos happening. Maybe that's in the first half of volume 12. And then we have a possible resolution, some other reveal. It's probably going to be the Beast Titan. Like, they're going to have to say something about the Beast Titan, and that'll bring it to a close. And so, yeah, I say the 4 out of 5 because it hits the right beats for me. So there you go. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate your time as always. I hope you don't mind the exploratory nature of this vlog, but hey, we're just finding our feet, you know? Like I keep saying, there's a bunch of manga behind me that still needs to be read, and so the discovery of whatever way we go forward here is going to happen organically. The channel's very young, very small. This channel will adapt and grow based on what people end up being interested in, based on what YouTube wants to find out there. I know there are more people out there, but I hope that YouTube finds them sooner than later. But I am going to finish the Attack on Titan series in this month of May. I didn't say it out loud. I did. So I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to explore, engage, and inspire, buddy. Peace.